Have you ever just stopped and wondered how weird our recent technological progress is? I mean, for hundreds of thousands of years, humanity was kind of just stuck, and then bam! In what is basically a historical blink of an eye, we go from steam engines to artificial intelligence. So, this explainer is going to dive into a pretty wild speculative theory that asks a huge question. What if we're not actually inventing all this new tech? What if we're just rediscovering it, following some kind of lost blueprint?
Okay, look at this. This graph right here. This is the whole mystery in one picture. For almost our entire history as a species, that line of progress is just flat, barely moving. Then, about 200 years ago, it just goes vertical. Whoosh! I mean, just think about that for a second. We made more progress in the last 2 centuries than in the 200,000 years before that. That's not just fast. It feels unnatural, doesn't it?
So what in the world could explain that? You know, the standard answer is the Industrial Revolution or the scientific method finally hitting its stride. Yeah, sure, maybe. But could it be something else entirely? Something we didn't create, but found?
All right, so let's really try to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this thing. Seeing that spike on a graph is one thing, but truly understanding what it represents is something else entirely.
This quote really nails it, I think. We're talking about going from basic stone tools that barely changed for millennia, to splitting the atom and building a global internet practically overnight. This isn't just a slow evolution of ideas. It's a full-blown revolution on a scale we've never seen before.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. If all this progress was just random chance and hard work, you'd expect the big breakthroughs to be scattered pretty evenly across the timeline. But they're not. And as we're about to see, the pattern itself might just be the biggest clue we have.
Take a look at this. Our innovations show up in these dense, explosive clusters. First, back in the 1800s, you get this huge burst of stuff around power and communication, electricity, radio, engines. Then, a little over a century later, another one focused on computation, microchips, and the internet. And right now, we're living through another one, the AI explosion. It's almost like we unlock one door, and suddenly a dozen other doors just swing wide open all at once.
You see? This clustering is a huge deal. Random discovery just doesn't look like this. This looks organized. It feels structured. It really makes you start to wonder. Maybe we aren't just stumbling around in the dark. Maybe we found some kind of map. And that brings us to the absolute core of this whole theory. The idea that this map isn't just a metaphor. What if it's a real physical object? An ancient piece of technology that kickstarted our entire modern world? The theory basically imagines some lucky person accidentally stumbling across something like this, the impossible shard. A piece of tech so advanced that, to whoever found it, it would seem like pure magic. Something capable of completely changing the entire course of civilization.
Now, this is a really crucial point. The idea isn't that we found, a simple set of instructions for a radio. It's that this lost blueprint is a teaching device. A piece of incredibly sophisticated technology, maybe left behind by some precursor civilization, the theory calls them watchers, that actively teaches us the fundamental principles of the universe.
And if we have a teaching device, well, that completely changes how we think about innovation. It would mean we're not inventing from nothing. We're doing something else entirely. This comparison just lays it out perfectly. On the one hand, you have invention. That's the slow, painful process of trying to figure everything out from absolute scratch. It's like trying to build a car when you've never even seen one before and all you have is a pile of metal. On the other hand, you have decoding. That's like being handed a complete car kit with a master key to how it all fits together. Now, which one of those sounds more like our last 200 years? It's the one on the right, for sure.
So, to get a better sense of how a teaching device could even work, let's use a quick metaphor. Look at the image on the left. It's packed with data, but to the naked eye, a lot of the important details are totally invisible, just lost in those dark and light patches. But watch what happens when we apply a special technique to it.
And boom! By applying what's called a gradient map, all those hidden details suddenly pop out in brilliant color. The theory is that this ancient blueprint works like a gradient map for physics itself. It doesn't give us the answers directly, but it reveals the hidden patterns and principles of the universe, letting our scientists suddenly see connections and possibilities that were completely invisible before.
And this process would happen in logical steps. First, the device helps us understand the fundamental principles of energy. That unlocks step 2, using pressure to build machines. And once you have those basic building blocks, you can move to step 3, rapidly reconstructing incredibly complex systems. And hey, doesn't that map perfectly onto those clusters of innovation we saw earlier?
So this all leads us to a final and frankly pretty unsettling thought. If this theory has any truth to it at all, what happens next? So let's recap the logic here. We have an unnatural spike in progress. That progress happens in very distinct, non-random clusters. The speculative explanation is a recovered teaching device. And what that means is, for 200 years, we've been decoding technology, not inventing it.
And this is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Following a map is fast and easy, but that journey has to end when the map does. If all our greatest achievements are really just us filling in a blueprint someone else made, what happens when we get to the edge of it? It means this explosive growth can't last forever.
Could the recent explosion in AI be the grand finale? The last chapter of the instructions we found? Now, of course, this is a thought experiment, but it really forces you to reconsider our place in history. What happens to progress when we run out of instructions and have to start inventing from scratch again? Are we truly the brilliant creators we think we are? Or have we just been very, very good students who are about to run out of lessons?